from the NFL Network and Super Bowl champion Eric Davis here in studio on the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you.
Always good to see you, man.
So we were talking, this whole DeAndre Jordan thing, that the only equivalent that could pop out from the football angle is what happened with Frank Gore and the so-called tampering window that existed in the NFL this year, where somebody gives their word to another team, and then, once it's tweeted by the NFL media, then it's got to be etched in stone.
Well, if it's on the internet, it's true, and it's real.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, would you say this is the equivalent of that with what's going on?
I would say that would be the closest comparison that I can come up with.
Right.
And, and that, I don't have a problem with it. I really do not have a problem with it. And when Frank Gore was going through that process, he and I were in constant contact.
You were?
Yes. Frank and I are very close. He's like a little brother. He and I are very, very close.
So what was he going through?
He was going through the decision, number one, of leaving the team. And that's part of it. People never really take that into account, that players don't necessarily want to leave where they are. You're there, you're established, you know what grocery store to go to, you know what movie theater you like, you know who makes the popcorn best in the places that you want to go to. So it's a big change. It's not like this high school thing where you're being recruited. So he was deciding, number one, if he wanted to leave, and then if he was going to leave, best place for him. He thought that was going to be the Colts.
But I thought it was that he had already decided to leave San Francisco and told Chip Kelly and the Eagles he's coming. And then the decision was between whether to stay with the team that he just left the 49ers to go to or the Colts.
Once the decision had been made that he had to leave, he wanted to go to the Colts. And that's where he was going, to the Colts. He was going to go there, but then Chip Kelly came in, they made a better offer, and he had to decide, okay, do I go? Because at the end of the day, business is a part of this. Where do I go? How do I make that happen? And that's when it turned, I'm going to Philly. I'm going to go to Philly, but his heart was going to Indianapolis,
right?
Which he eventually ended up doing when they came back and they decided that we will match the deal.
I'm here with Eric Davis on the Rich Eisen Show. But how powerful is it to have your teammates knock on your door, come in from all different points, from driving from Austin like J.J. Redick, or off the banana boat like Chris Paul did? How powerful was that, do you think?
Obviously, it was huge. Again, this shows me he didn't want to leave in the first place. You can reach a point where you say, okay, I'm cutting all ties. I'm going to sever all ties. I'm walking away. This is not, this chapter is done. Obviously, that was not there. He had not gotten to that point. So for whatever reason, what he needed to hear, he hadn't heard. He hadn't had a chance to voice it. He hadn't heard the things that he needed to hear to make certain. Because remember, in basketball, it's so different in basketball. Teams are obligated to the player in basketball because of the guaranteed contracts. Football, the player is obligated to the team. That's why Frank Gore's situation was a little different, and why I told him, ultimately, and it's what I would say to DeAndre Jordan as well, ultimately, you are the guy that has to deal with it regardless of what decisions you make. The bad press, the good press, the teammates, you have to live in this city and play with these players. So if you are happy, go to the place that's going to stay there. And if you have a new home that's going to make you happy, go there. So the teammates coming in and saying, Guy, we think we can do this with you. Again, there's a comfort zone with those players. You know what you would be giving up as opposed to what you may be getting yourself into. So I get what he's doing, and I don't have a problem with it. And people can say what they want to say about this guy deciding that and giving his word, his verbal commitment to the Mavericks, and then changing his mind. Well, what happens if you go to that team and the Mavericks decide they want to trade you to San Antonio or to Golden State or to the Nets or whatever? You don't have a say in that. So as long as those things are out there on the table, make up your mind, make the decision, and go where you want to go when you have the power to do so.
Well, I'm all about exacting leverage. I'm all about that in negotiations. But what I said earlier on the show, and I'll say it with you here as well, and get your 2 cents on this, I think DeAndre Jordan should have called Cuban, should have taken his call. Because he did tell him something. He did give him his word. He did shake his hand. And to say, look, I'm going to pay you just in the same way that you paid me the respect that you wanted me on your team.
I get what you're saying.
And that I accepted your overtures initially. I have had second thoughts. And you know what it is to have second thoughts in your area of your business. I can't do it, Mark. And I'm sorry I'm leaving you in this position. So you tell me your thoughts when you hear.
My thoughts on that are how many players are called, and we can. This is one specific instance, but I wonder how many players are called when a team decides to pull an offer, and where they say, well, you know what, we changed our mind and we are sorry, and we understand the inconvenience of this, but we're going to go in a different direction. Really doesn't happen that way, Rich. It really doesn't happen that way. They don't call you or say, come by, you stop over to your house and let's have a drink and let's talk about this and let's go through all the details of why these things can't happen. They just move on. He has the right. That's why you have this time. He had not signed the paper. They understand that there is a reason why you still have this time. And until the deal is done, that's what, from a player standpoint, until you actually sign the paperwork, it can disappear. So I get what you're saying. And in every other aspect of life, I get what you're saying. And it does make sense to walk in as a man and say, this is what's going on. But there are so many moving parts to this. Because who's to say that he hadn't told his agent, okay, I'm changing my mind on this, let him know. And his agent was trying to say, you know what, let's just wait. Let's just make certain that something goes through on the other side the way you want it to go through. And then we'll have this conversation. With the internet, the moment someone hears something, it's out there. So I'm still okay with it.
You have the statement from the hospital?
Yeah, absolutely.
You got that
there's,
for me?
Some other stuff. TMZ Sports actually was contacted by the hospital, and they said they are launching a aggressive internal investigation into the matter. ESPN, for its part, released a statement as well saying that they did not, in fact, do any wrongdoing because the HIPAA laws that apply to the medical community do not apply to a news organization.
Okay. What did you think of that?
I think that's out of bounds. I don't know how you got the information, but there are some things you have to know that you just don't do. It's kind of like all the trash talking that happens on the field. There's a guy code. You don't talk about the wives. You don't talk about the kids. No matter how bad the trash talking gets. Mm-hmm. This is something right there. I mean, people's medical records, you don't do that. If I decide to put my own information out there, that's one thing. But no one else should do that. And you should know better than that. It's at some point you have to stop trying to be first to get the story and just say, okay, this maybe is a story I shouldn't tell. That's how I feel about it.
And at some point, we're going to get to the point of, like, how effective can Jason Pierre-Paul be as a nine-fingered pass rusher? I mean, we may not be there yet, but we could front-load the discussion. We have no idea. I mean, let's put it this way. You played with Ronnie.
I played with Ronnie, and he didn't remove an entire finger. It was like the top digit there, and he was still pretty effective.
Yes, he was.
Well, this is the thing. He's not. And I was talking to Nate yesterday, and we were discussing
Nate Burleson.
Nate Burleson. We were discussing the fact that he's not a receiver. Because I was like, okay, I don't think it's going. Yes, it's going to make a difference. It's going to be something for him to get used to, and he's going to have to make some type of adaptation. But he's a pass rusher. He's not trying to catch a football, and he's still going to be able to do the things that he does. Now, if it were a thumb, now I would have a problem. I think he would have a problem. I mean, but his index finger, I mean, you can still grab a guy like this. You can still rush the passer. You can still be effective. You can still hold your leverage and do all the things that you have to do, because he's not at a position where he has to catch the ball. So I don't think it's going to be as big a deal as I think some are believing, as far as the way it's going to affect the rest of his career.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.